Hello everyone, it's Christine back for another episode of our Stitch Along, and today our stitch is Armenian Edge stitch or Armenian edging stitch, and it was a stitch suggested by Kimberley, so thank you Kimberley. And you can already see I've done the stitching on both sides of my little piece of scrap fabric. I was originally filming doing this side, but the camera was rotated around at the wrong angle and I didn't realize that, so I'm going to redo the stitching with you on this other piece of fabric that I've got below. And what I suggest you do if you're working on these little scraps or whatever fabric you're working on is create yourself a little edge or a little hem by just folding it over and then ironing it flat, or you could stitch along it, but that's actually not required. So with this second little piece of fabric, I've just folded it over and ironed it. So that's what we're going to work on today. I've threaded my needle just with a crochet cotton in a dark blue. And what we're going to do is pop through from the back, and I'll just indent it a little bit in so that's not right on the raw edge of the fabric. So we're going to come through right where the fold is, and the knot in the thread will be hidden in the fold of the fabric. And then I'm going to bring the needle and just come up just from underneath the fold of the fabric through to the front of the fabric, about 1/2 centimetre across. Then I'm going to turn that U-shape loop. So I'm not going to pull the thread all the way through. I'm going to leave a U-shaped loop, and I'm going to turn that U-shaped loop to form a figure 8. So I'm going to take it over to the right. I'm then going to put my needle down behind the bottom of the figure 8. So my needle's resting on my felt sewing pad and it's behind the thread. And then I'm going to bring the tip of the needle out through the bottom of the figure 8. And I'm going to gently pull that. Make sure it's not catching. This one you do kind of need to make sure it doesn't catch. Otherwise you might get a too big loop. And then I'm going to go over and do the next stitch. So again, leaving myself a U, I'm going to take the thread on the left of the U over to the right hand side to make a little figure 8. I'm then going to put my needle behind the bottom of the figure 8 and bring it out through the bottom of the figure 8. So it's probably a bit hard to lift up, but yeah, basically you're sliding your needle under the thread and then out through the figure 8. Got something caught in there. And then you're just wanting to pull it along to make your nice little loop. So let's do another one. So we're going to come up through where the fold is. So not too close to the fold, because otherwise you might end up sort of, putting a hole in your fabric and losing the stitch. So we've got our U shape. We're going to take the left-hand bit of the U over to the right to form a figure 8. Then we're going to put our needle under the bottom of the figure 8 and bring it out through the whole of the figure 8. We're just going to slowly pull our thread. That seems to be the key with this stitch, to get your nice little loop. So hopefully you can see the loops there, and so you get a little notch and a loop. The first loop was probably a smidge on the large size. It is a bit hard with this stitch, I would have to say. You don't always get the perfect result, and sometimes you might have to just loosen your knot before you've sort of fully pull it through if the loop's coming out too big for you. So again, taking the thread from the left over to the right to create our figure 8, putting our needle behind the thread and then out through the bottom of the figure 8, and then making sure the loop's not there, and then pulling it through and making sure you've still got your nice little loop shape. So let's keep going along. Hope you're all having a great day or a great evening. I'd have to say this is a more fiddly stitch than some of the other ones we've done, just because of needing to make sure it doesn't sort of make a loop of the size that you don't want. So putting it behind my figure 8 and then out through my figure 8. And then just pulling it making sure we've got our little loop there. So we'll go again. So I might try a different premiere time because I've been doing 9 p.m. here for my premieres for these videos, but I might try a morning here premiere, which will be evening, I think, where some of you are. Because with the premieres, we can, if folks are online, we can chat in the live chat, which is kind of a novelty. Even if there's only a few of us, it's nice just to make the live chat sort of acquaintance. Now, something you will want to do periodically is let your thread sort of unwind where it starts to get twisty and be twisting over itself. So after I've done this stitch, I'll just show you how I do that. So I'm going to, again, fold my thread over, create that figure 8, and then slip my needle through and get our little loop. So when I want to let the needle kind of, you can see it's looking quite twisty on the thread, I hold the thread up and let it sort of dangle around. You can probably see it spinning around a little bit, and that'll just take any of that sort of twisty tension out of the thread, and that does definitely help with this stitch, because if there's that twisty tension, sometimes the loops won't work perfectly well. Let me just get rid of these little scraps off the desk. Okay, let's do our next one. So coming across about 1/2 centimetre, popping out. Oops. Sorry, I'll move it up where you can see it. Creating our figure 8, putting our needle underneath, and then taking it out through the bottom of the figure 8. And gently, so this one you can see it's created a little loop at the side there. We don't want that because that will get in the way of the knot. And in fact, that knot's ended up bigger than I would want it to be. So what I do if that happens is I just use my needle to just loosen the knot that has just formed at the side, like you can see there. And then at that point, no, so I still need to loosen it a bit more and sort out what's catching on it. Now it will go back and it will form a loop of the size that you want it to be. So that's the only challenge with this stitch. It is a little bit more fiddly, but I do like the effect. So I think it will be one that I use in the future. So again, forming our figure 8, popping out. So again, we've got it popping over there, which we know we can't have, otherwise it will not make the loop quite right. There we go. So you can start to, as you do it, you start to see when it's going to not form a loop of the size you want, and you can kind of intervene as you go along. So let's put it to the right, and then let's put our needle, oops, to the right, needle under and out. And let's pull. There we go. So I'll just keep going along. I know other videos where they do stitching, they only do a couple of stitches and then they go into the sort of sped up version, which I always find I need to kind of watch it for a little bit longer. So I'll just do them where I do it at a normal speed throughout them, because that way hopefully by the end you can see how it's going. Now we've ended up with that one being big as well. So again, that technique of just putting my needle into where the knot is, loosening up the knot and then giving it a pull, and you should hopefully get one of the right size. So it is savable. The knots aren't sort of permanent while you're still sort of in that section. I think they'd be harder to remove once you've gone sort of too far forward. So if you get a knot of this or a loop of the size that you don't want, fix it as you go. So again, oops. Let me move it up a little bit so I'm in shot. Oops, so we're getting twisty thread again, so I might need to do another rewind after the next stitch, passing it through. So I can see it's trying to pull to the right, but there we go. probably still a smidge on the large side size, that one, but we can fix it up. There we go. And let's just let our thread untangle around. Just done that spinning. Oh, sorry, just banged the camera. And then let's pop along another 1/2 centimetre. Create our loop, fold it over. At this point. There we go. And next one, and I think this might be the last one on here because I don't want to go too close to the edge. And then we fold it over, put our needle behind, pass it out through the bottom of the figure 8, and then let's give it a pull. There we go. So that is our Armenian edge or edging stitch. So I'll probably put that little sample in when I put this into my little sample dictionary. I quite like how all the different fabrics coordinate with each other. This one's a thicker one. I think this is a vintage sort of drill fabric. So that is our Armenian edge stitch. So I hope you give it a go. And when you finish off, all you do is pass your needle back into the fold of the fabric. And then you just tie it off here so that, again, it's hidden away. And so I believe they use this stitching like around hankies and doilies and things like that to give that nice frilly edge. Sorry, and a thread just came rolling out across my desk. If only you could see the chaos that surrounds me on my desk. I have all my fabric scraps and all my crochet threads. Well, not all of them, just a good selection of them out. So there we go. That is Armenian edge stitch. And tomorrow will be what we are calling Antwerp edging. So that was suggested first by Michelle and then also by Kimberley. So thank you to both of you. And I believe it's also known as knotted buttonhole stitch or knotted blanket stitch. So we shall be giving that a go. I don't think you'll need to create an edge like this. I think you can just do it on a piece of fabric unless you want to do it on a folded over edge, but I'll just be doing it into the fabric, I think. So take care, everyone, and I will see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.